Welcome back to CBB2, and today we are mostly going to be
rambling on about forks again. Yes. Yes, pretty much every other bike that I've ever come across has had nuts and bolts on top. Yeah. This not so much. So thanks to the amazingly helpful people on the Facebook group Amateur Cafe Racer Builders, great group of guys, loads of knowledge out there, loads of people have done things and know what they're talking about. Apparently these were potentially factory and potentially an upgrade that was very popular in the 70s with air. Yes, air shocks, or at least air in the top to dampen things or whatever. Anyway, short answer is unscrew this boy, release the air, undo one of these, and then these you can just get an open-ended spanner on that big side there, and they come off as per usual. And then you find a spring inside and other bits and pieces, I guess. So we'll probably do that. Yeah. Trouble is, as I may have mentioned, we're a bit tight on space in here. We have had 7 bikes in here before now, and we've only got 5.5. So it's not to capacity, but it does make life rather difficult because we've got our friend the engine hoist crane back, which we probably want to pull up the front end of the bike. It's a lot easier than messing around with jacks and blocks and things in order to start dismantling the forks in any real way, shape or form and get that front wheel off to paint it and that kind of stuff. So I don't know, I might just do some experimental investigation to start with, mainly because this part of the build is fundamentally kind of a decision-making situation where if I'm not able to or don't want to shorten these forks, what am I going to do? Do we swap in the old CB750 forks? I doubt it. Do we look for alternatives like CBR 600 forks, something like that? I don't know. Either way, it's time to look into the whole situation and see what we find. Well, sure enough, we have an air valve. Yeah. Stage 1. Stage 2, joining pipe, disconnected, 14mm. Stage 3, 17mm. Nice and easy. Lovely jubbly. Okay. That answers that then. You missed that bit, but the spring pushed the nut off. I was expecting to find some kind of air device in there, not least of all a kind of spacer, and there isn't one. So that's, I don't know, is it alarming or just not as anticipated? Of course, I can't get the bastard back on now, but anyway. So this leaves us with a lot of options. We can either potentially try and shorten these, which is not as hard as it sounds. I'm not really sure I understand it, even though I've watched the videos, but it's a question of taking spacers out one end and putting them in the other end, and that... Yeah. The good news is these standard kind of nuts at the top of the old 750 should fit, so we can use those. We might even be able to use those pistons, for want of a better word. I don't know what you call those, but those forks, the internal bits, and put the bottom bits from this one on the bottom. Therefore we got our mounts for our discs and everything. Like I said, lots of options, and probably needing a whole day to explore, including getting the engine crane out and moving everything around, blah blah blah. So that's as far as we're going to go at the moment with this. Yes, then there's all this malarkey, but we're not going to look at that just yet. Don't worry, Mr. Sansom. We need to work out whether it's an F or a K or a K Limited or a C. I think it's a C. It says TR on the document, so that's no bloody help. Anyway, the Muppet that owned this before had printed one of these out, and that's somewhere. I think it might still be in a car. At least that will tell me what he thinks it is. Anyway, despite the mess down here, it shouldn't be too difficult. Once we've identified what certain things are, we know that's a rectifier. Not sure what they are. We'll come back to them and then we got just various plugs and things, 4 sockets and 6 sockets and blanked off and whatever. So yeah, see, foolish boy did not label anything, so that's probably why he gave up and hasn't got a clue, and now it's my problem. So let's start unplugging stuff and labelling it anyway. Don't worry, I'm not going to film it. So our friend Reginald the rectifier could just be cleaned up and painted orange, or honestly, I mean, given the state of all that, I might just buy a new one. They're 16 bucks, I think, and paint it orange, of course. Anyway, let's put this in our amalgamated bucket of spares. Yeah. Talking of which, if anyone needs any bits for carburetors, I've got some bits that I don't think I need, because I appear to have carburetors. Leave a message in the comments. Happy to ship them to you if that's what you need. And then we have thing 1 and thing 2, yeah, which we're not sure what they are at the moment. Anyway, labelled T1, T2, and also labelled on the bike the same. So at the back, that just leaves these 3 and a bit. What's that? Which are probably like brake light switch, rear. That's probably brake light. Anyway, yeah, rear lights and stuff, indicators, blah blah blah. I just got to show my UK viewers these horrible connections that are used frequently in the US. They're supposed to be nice and easy because you just kind of screw them clockwise and they bind the wires together and whatever. I mean, they're all right for household stuff, but would I use them for a vehicle? Let me think about that one. No. Anyway, they go to what looks like a headlamp connector. What that is, probably went to the gauges, maybe. Which just leaves a couple of stragglers. We got something there going to the clutch. We should have something going to the brake, but I don't see it. Ready? Yes, don't see anything going to the brake. Perhaps that's our stragglers. Okay, you can all breathe a sigh of relief. That's the extent of our electrics for this episode at least. Right, back on the springs already. Yeah. So what I noticed just by leaning on it is that, ooh, that happens quite easily. I'm sure, I mean, most of the people that do fork shortening don't chop an awful lot off the springs. They usually chop like 2 inches or something. But obviously you saw that travel, right? That's quite a lot of travel. And there's still plenty to go if you really lean on it, right? So I'm wondering, in my usual way, whether I just chop like 4 inches off the spring and call it a day. Yeah. Well, I've always got another pair over there if I need them, and they've probably got the same springs in them or shorter versions. Oh, whoa, that's an idea, isn't it? I wonder, why don't we just pull this one out, pull one of those out and see. Yeah, that might work before we chop anything, because chopping is always irreversible. Here we go, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, old 78 CB750 forks in the vise, not enough to stop that spinning, so mole grips just to help that, and this boy now loosened with a all I had was a 15/16. Yeah, I know what that is in metric. It's not a 22, it's not a 27, it's somewhere in between, probably a 25. Actually, it probably is, isn't it? Thinking of fractions. Anyway, so this is probably, oh yeah, this is probably going to pop out. There you go. Not with the same velocity that the newer version did, so that's kind of good. Although there was no air involved at that point, and actually there was no air involved at any point, because when I released all the hoses and whatever, it didn't go pfft. So here's the spring on the old version, noticeably kind of consistent spring, whereas most springs are tightly wound at the top. or either end, probably. I haven't got the whole thing out. Actually, I have got the whole thing out. No, just the top. Well, yeah. Okay, here we have it. Old spring, chopstick, new spring. I mean, yeah, this is off the 78, this is off the 82, and a lot shorter. Could it be that simple? That would be lovely, wouldn't it? I don't know, let's try it. I'm dubious about dropping the old spring down the tube just in case I can't get it out again. I'm sure I can with a coat hanger or something, right? Yay! Old spring going in. Oops. Disappeared down there somewhere. It's alright, I can get it out with this, which came with something. I can't remember what. Suspension or something. Anyway. The point is that disappeared down, which would be the same as chopping the current spring. And if we do the same on the other side and then just push everything down and put the nut on top, is that going to work? Shall we give it a go? I was never any good at physics at school, as you're about to find out, probably. So the bad news is that these nuts off the old CB750, that one over there, yeah, don't fit. So temporarily we're going to have to use these crazy fittings until we come up with something better. Which obviously they have they have leakage here, so they're going to just piss fluid everywhere. When anyway, again, one of the guys on the forum was very helpful about Cafe Moto or whatever the hell. They do a lot of full conversion stuff, very expensive. And he's like, oh yeah, they got some top nuts for a CB750. They're like, you know, they're very reasonably priced at $60 for a nut. Are you kidding me? So yeah, a standard bolt nut, whatever that is on the top there, is about $30. About half the price. All right, let's do the other side. There you go, I told you it was quite spectacular. No eyes were harmed in the filming of this video. So that's those springs swapped over, and the question is, has it made a difference? I don't honestly know, except that it fell off the centre stand, which was a little bit dramatic, and now the rear wheel on the centre stand is a bloody mile off the ground, as you can see. So I think the answer is yes. I think actually when we sit it on the ground, which I can't do till we get the side stand, I think we're going to find that's made an enormous difference. So at the moment we've got these ridiculous caps on, and we're going to have to find some other ones. Hopefully for less than $30. I mean, they're just bolts, for Christ's sake. Talking of which, I can't wait to get that side stand, because I'm just not as tough as I was. And I never had to haul a 750 with a big old chunky motor like that onto a centre stand. I think the last thing I had to haul onto a centre stand was 400 Kawasaki when I was 17, and I was a lot fitter. 40 years later, it's a little bit more of a struggle. But I'm pretty sure once we settle this thing down on the floor again, once I've got the side stand in place, I'm brave enough to do so, I think that front end's going to be a lot lower. Yeah, like 3 inches lower. And I think that'll be problem solved. We should all find out together later on. I think that's enough rambling for one episode. We've done quite a lot, and we've looked at quite a lot. Thanks as always for watching, tuning in. Check out some of the other series and episodes, and of course if you like this one, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and encourage others to watch my lunacy.